It lasted just 4 seconds. A handshake between global icon Rihanna and Catherine, Princess of Wales, at the Met Gala. But in those 4 seconds, decades of royal tension, celebrity rivalry, and international headlines collided, and the message couldn't have been louder. This wasn't just elegance. This was strategy. And Meghan Markle wasn't in the room. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. No one expected her. Not here. Not tonight. Catherine, Princess of Wales, known for her traditionally conservative royal appearances, made an entrance that stopped the Met Gala cold. As flashbulbs screamed and social media went into meltdown, Catherine didn't just walk the carpet, she conquered it. And then came Rihanna. Not just a fashion powerhouse, but a global celebrity with her own gravitational pull. Yet she didn't approach any designer, mogul, or fellow superstar first. She walked directly toward Catherine. What happened next would rewrite the night's entire narrative. The handshake wasn't rushed. It wasn't accidental. It was slow, purposeful. 4 full seconds of poised eye contact, frozen palms, and unspoken meaning. Every camera in the room caught it. Every headline the next morning led with it. And within 15 minutes, something else exploded. Meghan Markle's name began trending worldwide. Commentators, royal experts, and online sleuths flooded platforms with theories. Was this a snub, a signal, or something far more orchestrated? Royal body language experts dissected every inch of the moment. The way Catherine slightly tilted her head, Rihanna's subtle lean forward, the shared nod at the end. Some called it power recognizing power. Others said it was a message broadcast loud and clear. The Princess of Wales had stepped into a different arena and Meghan had been left out. Was it just coincidence that Rihanna, who has previously voiced support for Meghan's narrative, seemed to choose alliance over allegiance? Or was this the climax of a long, silent war no one dared speak of until now? The online world didn't hold back. Memes flooded timelines. TikTok theories stacked views in the millions. Headlines didn't just report, they speculated, dramatized, ignited. Some claimed Catherine was rebranding herself globally, with the Met Gala as her new throne. Others pointed to Meghan's absence as the catalyst for Catherine's bold move. Theories stacked higher than the red carpet heels on the night. But amidst the storm of speculation, one truth stood unshaken. Something had shifted. But to understand why this moment exploded into a cultural earthquake, we have to go back to a quiet rivalry that's been simmering beneath red carpets and royal corridors for years. They've never shared a stage, never posted together. But behind the scenes, Rihanna and Meghan's paths have crossed more than once, and not always gently. From shared causes to shared critics, the tension has been building in plain sight. Both women command global platforms, both shape conversations in humanitarian and fashion spheres, and both understand the power of perception. Meghan Markle, once the Duchess who challenged royal convention, now repositions herself as a bold American voice against outdated institutions. Rihanna, meanwhile, has become far more than an entertainer. She's a billionaire mogul, a philanthropist, a mother, and a woman who moves through elite spaces without ever seeming to bow. On the surface, their alignment should be obvious, two powerful women rewriting rules. But behind closed doors, their alliance never materialized. And that silence has spoken volumes. Rumors began swirling during the peak of Meghan's media ascension. Sources whispered that her team reached out to Rihanna's for a guest appearance on the now-defunct podcast Archetypes. The request, reportedly, was met with polite deflection. No scheduling excuse. No open-ended maybe. Just silence. Industry insiders claim Rihanna wasn't interested in aligning her brand with Meghan's ongoing feud with the royal institution. It wasn't personal, it was strategic. Rihanna doesn't wade into drama unless she controls the narrative. And Meghan, it seemed, had already lost that grip. But the friction didn't end with a missed podcast. There were whispers of disagreements over a joint charity project that collapsed before it was ever announced. Meghan's team, keen to link with global icons, allegedly sought a co-branded event around maternal health and issue both women champion. Yet Rihanna's camp remained cold. The collaboration dissolved into nothingness. The official word was logistics. But those in the know say egos couldn't fit into the same room. Then came Fashion Week. New York. Cameras caught Meghan being ushered from one row to another while Rihanna held court center stage. Coincidence? Perhaps. But in the world of elite influence where every seat signals status, it was interpreted as something else entirely. Meghan, once a centerpiece, was now a guest. Rihanna, unfazed, never acknowledged the encounter. Even more intriguing were the subtle digs never obvious, never named. In interviews, Rihanna would reference the importance of authenticity over spectacle. Meghan, in contrast, continued to anchor her image to carefully crafted vulnerability. Their words never crossed, but the contrast did. The public noticed. The press speculated. But both women remained silent, allowing interpretation to fan the flames. And in the background, the distance between them became its own headline. And just as Rihanna kept her silence, Catherine was paying attention and preparing for her own quiet counterstrike. Catherine had never attended the Met Gala. Until now. And when she did, it wasn't just a fashion choice, it was a power move. Behind the couture gown and polished smile was a message crafted with precision, and aimed at the very heart of royal rebellion. The news hit like thunder through royal channels and celebrity circuits alike. For years, Catherine, Princess of Wales, had carefully stayed away from events steeped in celebrity culture, maintaining the traditional distance expected of a future queen. But this time was different. Her decision to walk the steps of the Met Gala didn't just raise eyebrows, it rewrote protocol. Inside the palace, debate erupted. Charles III, already balancing the fragile dynamics of modern monarchy, reportedly expressed quiet concern. There were whispers of hesitation, of optics, of tradition being compromised. But Catherine, once labeled cautious, now stood firm. This was her move, and she wouldn't ask for permission. And it wasn't just the attendance, it was the execution. Catherine didn't choose a legacy British designer or a royal favorite. Instead, she stunned the world in a piece crafted by a visionary known for their work with Savage X, Fenty Rihanna's groundbreaking brand built on empowerment, inclusivity, and unapologetic female strength. The symbolism wasn't lost. Fashion experts quickly dissected every fold and silhouette, noting the subtle nods to resilience, defiance, and evolution. This wasn't just fashion. It was narrative. There were no senior aides shadowing her, no handlers shielding her from cameras or controversy. Catherine arrived alone, owning her moment, her story, her silence. Every detail, from the choice of jewelry to the way she stood on the carpet, suggested calculation, not coincidence. She didn't need to say a word. The statement was in her presence. And across the Atlantic, it landed like a lightning strike. Meghan Markle, the Duchess who had long been the royal family's lightning rod for modernity and controversy, was reportedly blindsided. According to insiders, the Sussex camp had no indication this move was coming. Catherine had stepped into Meghan's world and done so on her own terms. Without interviews, without documentaries, without disclaimers. Just presence. Pure, controlled, unmistakable presence. Behind palace walls, this wasn't just a dress or an event. It was a shift, a repositioning of Catherine from ceremonial figure to cultural force. And it came at a time when the monarchy desperately needed a symbol of strength without scandal. In one night, Catherine did what advisors had struggled to do for years. She modernized the crown's image without saying a word. It was strategic. It was silent. And it was seismic. But nothing at the Met Gala is accidental, and what came next transformed the night from glamorous to historic. It was brief, but it was seismic. Rihanna's handshake with Catherine didn't need commentary, it was the commentary. And when analyzed frame by frame, the footage told a story louder than any headline. In a room where every movement is measured and every gesture dissected, Rihanna's decision to walk past A-list celebrities, global designers, and even high-ranking Vogue editors to approach Catherine sent shockwaves through both the fashion elite and the royal establishment. It wasn't an accidental greeting. It was direct, deliberate, and undeniably symbolic. For a woman like Rihanna, who has never bowed to convention, who chooses her alliances with surgical precision to make Catherine her first stop of the night, was not just notable, it was historic. Cameras caught every second, but it wasn't until the slowed-down replays and lip-reading analyses hit the internet that the full impact became undeniable. "You've got all of us behind you," Rihanna said. Not shouted, not staged. Just whispered, with the full force of meaning. And Catherine? She didn't flinch. She didn't look surprised. She just smiled softly and replied with two words that detonated like thunder through social media. I know. That moment, those 3 seconds of unspoken power were instantly clipped, captioned, and broadcast across the globe. Within hours, hashtags were trending. Within minutes, alliances were being drawn. This wasn't just a meeting of two women. This was a collision of narratives, and Catherine was now walking confidently in Meghan's once exclusive domain. Tabloids fanned the flames with front-page splashes. Was this a quiet show of solidarity from one powerful woman to another, or was it something darker, a carefully crafted moment of symbolic betrayal? The palace, as expected, offered no comment. But the silence only stirred more chaos. Royal insiders refused to confirm whether the handshake had been prearranged, and when reporters reached out for clarification, the press office's deflection was deafening. Meghan's supporters didn't hold back. Influencers aligned with the Sussex narrative began labeling the moment a public humiliation by proxy, accusing Rihanna of turning her back on a woman she once praised in interviews. Fan accounts dissected every still image, framing it as calculated shade. But behind the outrage, one truth burned brighter than all. Meghan was no longer the only royal rebel with cultural weight. Catherine had crossed into the arena and she was winning hearts without ever raising her voice. The footage played on every screen, on loop. Every second, every whisper, became ammunition for both sides of a divide that had long been simmering. And while the world dissected the handshake, Meghan's inner circle scrambled to control the narrative. But the damage had already been done. In Montecito, silence isn't just absence, it's strategy. Meghan didn't comment on the Met Gala. But her silence only fueled the fire. And behind closed doors, insiders say she was anything but calm. For someone who once mastered the art of public narrative, Meghan's decision to say nothing spoke louder than 1,000 interviews. There were no statements, no subtle quotes planted in glossy profiles. But hours after the moment between Catherine and Rihanna shattered the internet, a cryptic Instagram story emerged from a close friend of Meghan's inner circle, an image of a closed door with the caption, "Some doors close for a reason. Others never should have been opened." The post vanished within the hour, but not before it was screen captured and dissected by every tabloid and blog in the English-speaking world. The message was as clear as it was veiled. Something had shifted, and Meghan wasn't taking it lightly. Inside her Montecito compound, the atmosphere turned tense. According to royal commentators and Hollywood insiders alike, emergency meetings were held with representatives from Netflix and Spotify, scrambling to pivot strategy. Meghan had been quietly planning a relaunch rumored to be a new fashion brand that merged wellness, activism, and style. But after Catherine's unexpected Met Gala triumph, those plans were reportedly thrown into question. How do you launch a new era when the spotlight has been so dramatically and publicly redirected? Behind the scenes, Meghan was said to be deeply rattled. Not just by the handshake itself, but by what it represented. The subtle shift in loyalty. The headlines that painted Catherine as the embodiment of elegance and empowerment, a role Meghan had once hoped to redefine. One insider claims Meghan privately confided, "It's clear where everyone stands now." The line, raw and cutting, suggests the emotional weight behind the silence. The sting of watching an opportunity slip, not because of failure but because someone else executed it better, and without a single word. Harry, caught between two powerful women in two diverging worlds, remained publicly neutral. No statements, no appearances, but whispers from those close to the Sussexes revealed a man deeply conflicted, torn between loyalty to his wife and the weight of what his brother's future queen had just accomplished. Catherine had walked into Meghan's world and been embraced by it, not through interviews or expos, but through precision, presence, and timing. And that, more than anything, may have shaken the foundations of Meghan's carefully curated image. And as the Sussex camp tried to regroup, the public had already picked its sides and made one woman the face of modern monarchy. She's not a duchess. She's not a queen. But in one evening, Rihanna became something far more powerful, a global icon who threw her weight behind the crown, without needing a title. It wasn't the first time Rihanna had aligned herself with powerful women, but this time it was different. For years, she's been a vocal advocate for independence, authenticity, and bold female leadership. She's built an empire on breaking rules and lifting others as she climbs. But when she publicly praised Catherine, Princess of Wales, with the world still reeling from that now legendary handshake, the message was clear. This wasn't just admiration. It was allegiance. Speaking in an interview just days later, Rihanna commended Catherine's grace under pressure, calling her a woman who knows exactly who she is. Subtle. Direct. Cutting. Then came the post. A clip of the handshake, no caption, no explanation. Just a single crown emoji. Simple, iconic, and explosive. It didn't just validate the moment. It amplified it. Millions watched, reposted, interpreted. What had begun as a royal surprise now evolved into a global moment of cultural symbolism. American outlets called it the most unexpected alliance of the year. British media, not known for fawning over celebrity gestures, declared it electric. And for the first time in recent memory, the headlines surrounding the British royal family weren't about scandal, but strategy. Catherine's approval ratings surged within 48 hours. Social media flooded with praise. Words like class, power, and unshakable trended alongside her name. And just as Catherine's image crystallized as a modern icon of quiet strength, the air around Meghan began to shift. Coverage once sympathetic turned analytical. Tone grew cooler. Outlets began revisiting past narratives, re-examining old quotes, reframing old interviews. It was as if the press had decided a new Queen of Hearts had emerged, and the spotlight could no longer shine on both. What made the moment more piercing was its effortlessness. Catherine never chased it. She didn't need a stage, a docuseries, or a podcast to tell her story. She let others speak for her. And when Rihanna, arguably one of the most influential voices in global culture, chose to speak, she didn't choose Meghan. She chose the woman who had once been silent in the shadows, and now stood sovereign in style. But beneath the glitz and unity, deeper battles were quietly unfolding, ones tied to legacy, loyalty, and lineage. While the world talked fashion and fame, the palace went silent. Too silent. Insiders claim the handshake wasn't just noticed, it triggered a crisis meeting behind the gilded doors of Buckingham. The Met Gala might have dazzled the world, but within royal walls, the reaction was anything but celebratory. Charles III, already navigating a precarious balance between modern relevance and ancient tradition, was said to be unsettled. To him, the monarchy's strength lies in restraint, not red carpets. Sources close to the palace claim the king raised concerns about celebrity overshadowing royal duty, questioning whether the crown could afford to look like it was chasing fame rather than embodying it. But it wasn't just a quiet disapproval. Behind closed doors, tempers flared. Camilla, queen consort in title but still fighting for public affection, reportedly felt blindsided. Her post-coronation goodwill tour, meticulously planned and diplomatically delicate, had been buried beneath the noise of Catherine's silent coup in New York. And that, palace insiders say, made her furious. What no one could deny, though, was that Catherine's actions had stirred something long dormant in the monarchy, a sense of momentum. And William, the man born to one day wear the crown, didn't just notice it. He backed it. Whispered reports from royal aides suggest he defended his wife with quiet but resolute words. She's earned this. There was no hesitation, no apology, just calm confidence. A future king standing behind a future queen, even if it meant unsettling the present one. But not everyone inside the firm shared William's conviction. Senior courtiers, those whose loyalty lies with tradition, began voicing concerns. They feared backlash. Not from the public, but from the fiercely loyal supporters of Meghan Markle, whose narrative of exclusion had, for years, painted the palace in shades of silence and indifference. Now, with Catherine stepping into the cultural spotlight, those same supporters were sharpening their critiques. Accusations of hypocrisy loomed large. The question began to echo through the marbled halls. Was this a bold new era of palace strategy, or a dangerous gamble that could fracture the family's fragile public unity? And just as the speculation reached a fever pitch, another detail emerged. Queen Camilla, expected to appear at a major diplomatic event the following week, withdrew with no explanation. No illness, No scheduling conflict, just absence. And that absence spoke volumes. Was it quiet protest? A strategic retreat? Or something deeper, something unraveling beneath the surface? What had begun as a single handshake was now threatening to destabilize a monarchy already walking a tightrope between past and future. The royal family, long adept at silence, found itself caught in a storm of symbolism, loyalty, and shifting power dynamics. But if this was a chess game, Meghan was preparing to make her next move, and she was done playing nice. After days of silence, Meghan moved. A new initiative, a new photo shoot, and a headline-grabbing interview that left no doubt she wasn't backing down. She was doubling down. The announcement dropped without warning. Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, unveiled a surprise collaboration with one of the world's most coveted fashion houses. No teasers, no leaks, just impact. The press release spoke of redefining modern elegance through purpose, but the world knew better. This wasn't just a launch, it was a message. The timing was too sharp, the branding too deliberate. Days after Catherine's seismic Met Gala moment, Meghan had re-entered the spotlight on her terms. Hours later, the cover hit the internet. Meghan, poised, alone, powerful. The title? Unbothered. One word. One intention. And beneath the polished cover lines, the interview carried an edge that couldn't be ignored. There were no direct names, no overt shade, but the subtext was thunderous. She spoke of performative femininity, of those who cling to tradition for validation, of how true power isn't given, but earned. The quotes echoed like veiled daggers in a conversation everyone was now following frame by frame. When asked about public opinion, Meghan didn't flinch. Authenticity over image, she said plainly. Respect isn't demanded with silence, it's earned through courage. For many, the remarks were unmistakable jabs. To her supporters, it was classic Meghan bold, unapologetic, unshaken. To critics, it was a calculated counterstrike cloaked in empowerment. But one thing was certain. The line between narrative and war had now been crossed. Within hours, the internet split in two. Fandoms clashed. Hashtag Team Catherine and hashtag Team Meghan trended globally as users posted clips, quotes, theories, and accusations. What started as a quiet rivalry had now escalated into a cultural confrontation, playing out in front of millions. Every outfit, every phrase, every pause was analyzed as if it were a press conference. And in the middle of it all, Meghan stood firm. No apologies. No retreat. Speculation began to boil. Would she return to the UK? An upcoming royal event loomed, a national celebration steeped in tradition, with the entire royal family expected to appear. Rumors circled that Meghan had received a quiet invitation. Some said she was considering it. Others said she'd never come back without controlling the terms. But if she did appear, one thing was clear: it would no longer be as a royal stepping into duty. It would be as a woman reclaiming her narrative. And while the world debated power, posture, and perception, one woman remained silent, but unmistakably victorious. She said nothing. She did nothing. And yet Catherine emerged from the storm as the undisputed center of modern royalty. Not because she fought, but because she didn't need to. As headlines screamed and social media turned itself inside out, Catherine chose stillness. While others made statements, posed for covers, and launched new narratives, she simply went back to work visiting children's hospitals, championing mental health initiatives, and attending charity events far from the glittering chaos. There were no veiled messages, no reactive interviews, just quiet consistency. And in that silence, the world saw something they didn't expect. Strength. Strength that didn't seek validation. Strength that didn't need to compete. The media took notice. Articles once focused on fashion and form began to shift tone. Suddenly, she was being called the symbol of unspoken strength. A woman who didn't chase power, but became it. While Catherine remained focused on purpose, the institution she represented began to heal. Approval ratings for the monarchy, which had long been caught in waves of controversy and division, began to rise, especially among younger audiences. It was unexpected. In an age of influencers and exposure, Catherine had done what few believed possible. She captivated without performing. Her bond with Rihanna, still the subject of headlines and cultural commentary, became more than a red carpet moment. It became a symbol of modern diplomacy, a future queen connecting through presence, not politics, through mutual respect, not rivalry. And as the world recalibrated its view, the shift became undeniable. Meghan's base, once fierce and unshakable, began to splinter. Mainstream coverage, which had for years approached her narrative with empathy, began to ask harder questions. Was her silence strategy or surrender? Was her boldness brilliance or backlash? And in that uncertainty, Catherine's image only solidified further. She hadn't sought to win a war of perception. She had simply refused to lose herself in it. The final polls told a story that no headline could spin. Catherine, Princess of Wales, had quietly become the most admired royal on the planet, surpassing kings, queens, and global icons not through force, but through focus, through patience, through poise. While others played the game, she redefined it. While others performed, she prevailed. And in doing so, she reminded the world of something we had nearly forgotten, that in times of chaos, true leadership doesn't demand the spotlight, it simply steps into it when the moment arrives. Because in a world obsessed with image, Catherine reminded us all that real power doesn't perform, it prevails. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.